Conservative Party conference. Speak to the Foreign Secretary, James Cleverly, who's been standing by, being very patient for us. Appreciate your time this morning, Foreign Secretary. First, if we could just start by sort of recapping for our viewers where we are at the moment with regards to discipline and unity within the Cabinet. Now, we had the Home Secretary and the Levelling Up Secretary yesterday saying they were disappointed with the U-turn on the 45p rate of tax. We had the Leader of the House of Commons as well, Penny Mordaunt, saying that she felt the benefits should be uprated in line with inflation. This is open dissent within the Cabinet. And on top of that, the former Transport Secretary, Grant Shapps, saying that there was only 10 days left to save Liz Truss's premiership. And Robert Halfon, I heard on the radio last night, sounding really despondent, saying that people were walking around the conference yesterday feeling like zombies. It sounds like it's been a terrible conference, and Liz Truss has lost the authority of the party.
Well, look, what I can see, but you can't because it's behind the camera, is the queue of people who are already queuing up to go and see the Prime Minister's speech. Look, I'm an old-fashioned guy. I always think that the best way for ministers to feed their ideas and views into government is through the traditional structures, around the cabinet table or in cabinet committees, because we're in a privileged position where we have access to the Chancellor, access to the Prime Minister. Backbenchers, I appreciate, will want to say things at fringe meetings. They'll want to express their views in other way. But what I have seen whenever the Prime Minister comes to an event here at conference, huge reception, really passionate and positive reception, because people can see she is getting on with the things that she said she was going to get on with. Cutting taxes for 30 million people, investing in the UK, supporting people who are concerned about those energy price rises. So that's what the Prime Minister is focused on. The party, I think, is responding well to that as a whole, and there will always be some people that are critical, but that's politics.
Yes. So has she spoken to the Cabinet jointly? Has there been an edict issued that, look, I need to maintain party discipline here. If you've got a problem, come and see me, off camera, off microphone, and we can have a chat about it, but please don't publicly challenge my authority. Has she said that to the Cabinet?
No, so I've not seen any messages like that at all. I think people instinctively know that the British people want to see us focused on them. They want to see us discussing how to get wage growth in the UK economy, invest in the parts of the country where they live. That's what they want us to do. I think that's what we should be focused on. I know that's what the Prime Minister is focused on, and I think you'll hear that in the speech that she's going to give a little bit later on today.
Well, rather than guessing what the public wants to hear, a word cloud's been conducted by jail partners who are pollsters. Words like incompetent, useless and untrustworthy have all been associated with the Prime Minister. And to hear you say no edict has been handed out to a cabinet who are openly criticising one another, making policy on the hoof, surprises me at a stage when her personal authority is being questioned.
Well, the Prime Minister, when she was running for leadership, set out the agenda for government. She said she wanted to cut the taxes of hard-working families across the country. She said she wanted to go for a pro-growth agenda. She said she wanted to speed up the delivery of infrastructure which unlocks the potential of every part of the UK. That's what she said she was going to do. That is what she is doing in government, and I think it's incumbent upon all of us to rally around her, because that is the right agenda for government. That's what's going to support the British people. That is what's going to make sure that we are successful in the future and at the next general election, and that, as I say, having these kind of side conversations isn't useful, and it doesn't really serve the British people.
Yeah, two things. First of all, can you just clear up for us? Is November the 23rd still the date for the publication of the medium-term fiscal plan, or are we going to get a new date soon? Because there was a little bit of confusion about that yesterday. And secondly, would you like to see, and I know that there are lots of people in your Braintree constituency who will want this, to see benefits for working people uprated in line with inflation?
Well, look, I can't confirm exactly what the date is. The Chancellor will do so, but the process, and kind of to answer the second bit of your question, is the process for calculating the balance between money coming in and money coming out, about tax and about expenditure, whether through benefits or other things, will be done by the Chancellor in the usual way. The announcements will be made later on this year for implementation early part of next year. That's the usual process. And as I said, for me, feeding in ideas, feeding in what my constituents are saying to me to help the Chancellor and the Treasury team with their decision making, that I will do in the usual way, directly with him, rather than through your programme. And I hope you forgive me for sticking to that tradition.
Oh, I do find it hard, though, for a member of the Cabinet to not be able to clarify when we're talking about the importance of certainty, not least from the market perspective, that you can't tell us or rule out whether or not this fiscal plan for the medium term will be on the 23rd of November or not. We were told it would be this month. Then the Chancellor threw that into question again yesterday during an interview on GBNews. That was rowed back on later by his special advisers. We're no further along the road, and we've got the front of the Daily Star. Kwasi, it's all the Queen's fault. He's blaming the mini-budget disarray on the period of mourning following the death of the Queen. There's chaos. What's going on?
So the date of the announcement is far less important than the date of implementation. So the announcement of what changes...
The reason I want to push you on this is because the suggestion was it was going to be before the Monetary Policy Committee meeting on the 3rd of November. And that's absolutely essential because the OBR report would come out at the same time and would then influence whether or not interest rates would go up, which has an impact on mortgages as well. So it is important, and it's not just an arbitrary date that can be set ad hoc when the Chancellor finally decides. People are waiting literally day in, day out, whether or not they can renew their mortgage to find out what's going on.
Well, look, we absolutely recognise that uncertainty has a negative effect. Of course we understand that. We also want to make sure that the decisions that we make as a government and the Chancellor and the Treasury team make as a unit are based on the most up-to-date information, are based on all the relevant facts, are decisions that are in the best interests of the British people. That is what they are looking to do. As I say, they will give clarity as to when announcements are going to be made. But as I say, they'll be made this autumn for implementation in the spring, which is the usual rhythm for these kind of fiscal events.
Just a quick word on Ukraine, if you will, Foreign Secretary. How worried are you about the prospect of Vladimir Putin using tactical nuclear weapons? There were reports about this train possibly maybe carrying weapons. Can you clear that up for us?
Well, I'm not comfortable speculating on those kind of reports or intelligence matters on the programme. Of course, we listen very carefully to what Vladimir Putin says, but we also recognise he has a history of sabre rattling, of using this kind of intimidating language. But what he should recognise is what I said in my speech, what the Prime Minister has said, and what I suspect she will say again today, is our support for Ukraine is enduring because the stakes are incredibly high. This is not just about defending Ukraine, this is about defending freedom. And we have got to send a very clear message around the world that the UK, in defence of freedom, will stick with it, that we will have that strategic endurance to stand by our partners and our friends when they defend themselves against this aggression.
And just very quickly, I know you've got to go and your team are keen for this to wrap up, but I just want to ask, how helpful are the interventions of people like Elon Musk suggesting that Crimea should just be handed to Russia in the name of peace?
Well, look, there were voices when Russia annexed Crimea. There were voices that were saying, well, all he wants is Crimea. Actually, we think Crimea is actually part of Russia. He'll go that far and then no further. What we have seen is that he has lied and lied and lied, because it didn't just stop at Crimea. Then he went into Luhansk. Then he went into Donetsk. Then he invaded a number of parts of Ukraine. He won't stop until he is stopped. That's why our support has to endure. That's why we stand shoulder to shoulder with the Ukrainians. And you can't demand that a country gives away massive chunks of its territory for what we know will not stop his aggression and ambition.
OK, Foreign Secretary James Cleverly, we really appreciate your time. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you. Thank you.